both tracks. There we go.
Look at us.
We're working.
Hey,
we're rolling.
We're fancy boys.
How do you want to say something loud just to
Yeah, I do, because I plan on yelling this whole thing.
keep going?
I will. I'm going to talk like this the whole episode.
Just a loud guy.
I want to know why Learn Drums didn't have a drum episode last time, man.
Hello, everyone. It's so good to see you. Did you know that I can see you? I can. We're back with another fresh episode of the Hitmaker Show. This week I'm talking to Clinton Charlton. Clinton is a musician here in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. Everybody in town here knows him. People outside of town, I don't know if they know him. Anyway, Clinton's a great guy. I had a lot of fun chatting with him. And like me, he's someone who plays the drums but also does other things. And I was eager to talk to him for that reason. So we talk about that, kind of the difference between those roles. And I quite liked what he had to say about kind of identifying as a drummer versus identifying as a musician. To borrow a phrase, a musician who happens to play the drums, but somebody who sees, doesn't necessarily prioritize one instrument over another. We talked for a really long time, close to 2 hours. That is not all included here. There was kind of a natural cutoff point towards the end, and after that point, there actually is a bunch of drum talk, which I will release sometime in the future. I don't have time to sit down and comp together a really solid edit of this interview. In fact, I didn't have time to listen to the whole thing. I'm busy, folks. I listened to Martin Atkins, South by Southwest. Not a keynote, maybe, like a speech or workshop presentation, whatever. Martin Atkins used to be the drummer in Public Image Limited, among other things. I saw him at Halifax Pop Explosion, which he mentioned in his speech at South by. He mentioned Pop Explosion and Waymason by name, which I found interesting, but his point was that you got to do a bunch of different things. So speaking of, I got some shows coming up. Playing Spinning Records with my friend Jeff McLennan at Taco Pica here in St. John. Friday, April 26th. Next day, April 27th, Saturday, playing in Fredericton at the Capitol with Valerie, my shoegaze band out of Halifax, playing some drums. And on the 30th, I'll be back at Taco Pica here, playing songs that I wrote as Beach Chair, playing in guitar and singing with my friend Erin Muir, who you heard a couple weeks ago, with her project Wrote, and this band from Toronto called Run Coyote. And they're up playing Flourish Festival, which the Valerie show is also going to be part of. Speaking of Run Coyote, and if you know anything about PEI politics, you'll know that my dad is the one responsible for putting a bounty on coyotes on Prince Edward Island about 15-ish years ago. Fun fact for you. Look it up. Don't look it up. There's something else I was going to mention. Oh, yeah, show notes, whatever. You want to find, I'll put links to Clinton stuff, my upcoming events. You can find all that and more at learndrums.ca. This is going to go up on the Learn Drums Instagram, too. I've been really toning down the Instagram use lately and loving it. All right, here it is. Me and Clinton. Enjoy. I know you will. Thanks so much for being here. Clinton Charlton, how are you?
I'm good, Ryan. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
Excellent.
See, yeah, it's funny like doing that kind of intro because it does always feel kind of
forced
and weird. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, so Clinton,
Ryan,
how'd you get into playing music?
oh boy. I bought a guitar when I was 14, and I wanted to be like, I knew I wanted to be a singer-songwriter, because like I'd get into the crowded house, and I knew I wanted to be like them or like Jim Croce or something. But but the guitar was like a really cheap guitar and almost impossible to play, you know.
Where'd you get it?
I bought it from a guy named Steve English in Grand Bay.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that you know, that was almost like more discouraging than anything.
Yeah.
And
was it an
then
acoustic?
It was an acoustic. Yeah, it was an Anjo.
Anjo
Anjo acoustic.
ANJO?
Yep.
It was like the strings really far off the frets?
Yeah, like one of those like like it probably just needed a setup, but you know, you don't know when you're that age.
No.
But anyway, so, you know, that was like my foray, you know, and then I think I was 18 when a band that I really wanted to be in needed a drummer. So I was like, I'm going to buy a drum set and learn how to play. I think I'd said I could or something, you know. But
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of the start. Like necessity, I guess, or wanting to be part of something was probably how I started, you know.
Yeah, I would have to agree. What was the band?
They were called Zoo, but
ZOO.
yeah, but they were like the high school band, but we kind of like regrouped and renamed as Mohair Sam when I joined.
Nice. Why that name, and what kind of music did you play?
It was a rock band for sure, you know, and that was like my first serious band, I guess. Like I was in a band called Second Chance. That was my my first band. But the Mohair Sam thing was like my first serious band. And I don't really remember why that name. I think it was like Elvis Presley's favorite song, maybe.
Okay.
Like jive talking, fast talking Mohair Sam or something.
Right.
And we did like, you know, like a lot of covers. But we also wrote some songs. The first gigs we got were, I had gone to this bar called Nippers, and I had dubbed the. You ever see The Commitments?
No.
It's like this Irish movie about music, but anyway, I had dubbed the soundtrack to that movie and wrote Mohair Sam on it, and took it to this local bar. I know, and said like that it was us, and so we got a gig, and it was, I think, the first time that the Tall Ships had been in St. John. So we got a gig that weekend, and I was like, we have to do Mustang Sally because it was on that cassette, you know, like stuff like that.
So what kind of, I was going to ask what kind of tunes you'd be covering.
Yeah, it started out like a lot of 50s, you know, like your roots of rock and roll kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, it progressed. Like as the band got, you know, more capable, I guess, we kind of went through the decades, you know, and like learned a lot of Neil Young stuff.
Sure.
And CCR. And then we started writing, and we never did put out an album, but we had made one, which is pretty typical of, like, are you running into that a lot? Like that, a lot of St. John bands have made an album but never put it out.
Really?
Yes.
Well, how did you, I don't know if I've run into that so much, and I think it really is because I've only been around the last 5 years where it's been, like, you don't have to make an album anymore. You can just record it and put it on the internet.
Oh, yeah,
these were
the days of, you had to make it. Like, it was on tape. You know?
Right. How'd you record it?
It was this guy, Mark Goslin.
I know Mark.
You know Mark? Yeah. So I think it might have been like his first band that he ever recorded. And he had a studio in his parents' basement. And he called it Studio C.
Why Studio C?
It was like SEA. I think.
Oh, I see.
To be honest, I think it was because I think some of the equipment came from CBC Studio C. Mm-hmm. But I may be outing him on something by saying that. So I'm not positive that was the case.
We can bleep that part.
Yeah, we might have to. But fun story there. When we started recording with him, we had to postpone because I broke both of my arms. And we had to wait. I was working at Canadian Tire at the time, and I was unloading a transport trailer where we had cheap tires, you know, that we would sell off at a discount price. And do you know what I mean by a white wall, like that white strip around the tire?
Yeah.
So they come with like this blue coating that protects the white wall, and you wash it off. And this trailer that I was unloading them out of, like this transport trailer, it was raining that day and it leaked. Mm-hmm. So the floor of the transport trailer was just like ice, you know? So I got to the edge of the trailer, and I had, I think, 2 tires on each arm. Reached up for the little strap to stabilize myself to get down the ladder, and boom, fell and crunch, crunch, crunch. I broke both of my arms.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was an adventure.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Did you fall out of the truck?
I bounced around. And it was crazy because I did not know I was hurt. Like, it was all adrenaline. I got up, collected my pens and stuff, because I was one of those nerdy types that would have, like, the pocket protector with the pens in it.
You had
collected
an actual
all my
pocket
pens
protector?
and stuff. Absolutely, yeah. and opened the door to the store, opened the next door to the store, and got myself into the lunchroom before I realized, like, oh, something is really wrong. Like,
Wow.
that was all adrenaline. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I broke my arm once drunk skateboarding down to see a band. It's like, I think I just didn't really have any, like, I had probably $20.
Yeah.
And I was living in Halifax, and also the buses don't give you change.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go see this band, and like I could pay cover and I could buy a beer, but I couldn't get a cab and do those two things.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I couldn't hop on the bus because I think the change, but also I just didn't want to wait the half hour, whatever it was going to take to get me there. So I hopped on my trusty skateboard that somebody had given me, and I was kind of getting used to. And I was going down Cogswell Street, which runs through the Commons, and it was pyloned off, so there's no traffic. So I thought, perfect, this goes exactly where I was going. I was going to the attic. And so I was just burning down the street. Too late, I saw this like black line across the street. I thought it was a shadow, but it was one of those traffic counter, those like the rubber cords or whatever. Oh yeah. I hit it and just bailed, and like it hurt. But then I just picked up my skateboard and walked to the bar. And
did you hang out that night? Like, with a broken arm? Really?
After I left the bar, I was like, this really hurts. I better go.
Holy shit.
I better go to the hospital.
Well, your story, like, that has some cred. Like, you were like, yeah, I broke my arm and then I went and partied. Like, that has some cred. But.
I didn't think it was actually broken, and it wasn't a huge break either. It was like a hairline fracture or something on my elbow.
Okay.
But I did have to get a cast for about a month and had to cancel a show that my band had booked, and then my bandmates one day when I wasn't home, like, stole my skateboard and I never saw it again.
Oh, they were like, that's it for you. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, whatever.
That's fair.
Okay, so you broke your arms in the truck, and you had to, this was when you were about to record the record?
We were about to make our first record, yeah. My first time in a studio, because to me, that basement studio then was like, holy cow, I've made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Right? So it was like, oh my God, and then this happened, and so it was...
Yeah, so what happened?
The band were awesome. They waited for me, and then when I think it took like 8 months before I could.
Whoa!
Like, I broke both of my arms.
Yeah,
pretty bad. You know.
How did you function for those 8 months?
My mom and I hadn't been as close since I was a child.
Right.
You know, I had a small baby. Then I had to go with my mom watched the baby.
Yeah.
And every morning her mother would have to get me ready too, and then we would go to the setters, and like, you do not know humiliation until you're like, Mom, I have to pee. Like, you do not know,
man.
It is a horrible experience.
Well, no kidding, because I even found, like, breaking my right arm and having to wear a cast for a month.
Yeah.
It was like brushing your teeth is hard. Everything is hard, but I still had one functional arm.
I had no.
That is crazy, man.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard of that happening.
It was nuts.
Before.
It was really crazy. The pictures from then are pretty awesome, actually, because I just looked like dysfunctional, and I was like super skinny, but I laid around for months, so I ended up getting like. There's this picture of me with like a super long beard, super long hair, and this great big belly, but I'm like ultra skinny. You know?
Yeah.
So I just look like I came back from like the Vietnam War or something. Like, it's
you're like a really well-fed prisoner of war.
Totally. Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God. Okay, so you went into the Studio C.
Yep.
You've recorded how many tracks in how many days?
Oh, geez. It was months.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Like, that was like one of those.
Kind of like going in on the weekends?
Yeah. Everybody had jobs and the whole bit. So yeah. That's a good question, actually. I don't really remember a lot of details. Not like because we were partying and drinking and everything. It was just so long ago. I don't remember a whole bunch. But we would have done like probably like, I don't know, 10 tracks maybe, like eight tracks, something like that.
Yeah.
It was done. I know we did the first two were done all on a Scully 4-track.
Okay.
So it was, I think it was a 1/2-inch tape machine, but it was like, we have these tracks and that's it. So it was like, if you wanted to do more tracks, you had to bounce stuff together and you had to live with that. And
yeah.
it was a really cool experience,
No kidding. Because you were forced to make that commitment. Well, and would you put a bunch of mics on the drums and then mix it down?
I think that's what he did.
Yeah.
Like, I think those were the days of close miking everything in the whole
right.
So,
yeah. You just run it through the board, but it outputs to 4 tracks.
I honestly, I don't remember a whole bunch, to be honest. Like, there are some old photographs that I'd have to look at, but yeah, I assume everything was like a close mic kind of thing.
Right. Wild. So you made the record, like you recorded it. Did you ever make tapes?
Nope. No, we never put it out. The band ended up like the band went through a lot of changes, and the band ended up changing, extremely through a bunch of different lineups, and it just never got put out. And eventually, I wasn't in that band anymore.
Yeah. So then you're just not going to do it.
Yeah, right. Like, there's a couple tracks that float around here and there, but there was just no point. Yeah. I know the album was going to be called Sexy Land, though. That's
by
true.
Mohair Sam.
That's very true. Yeah.
Wow, that's some lore for you.
Absolutely.
the Mohair Sam Sexy Land sessions.
Yep.
Yeah, Mark Goslin might have an opportunity on his hands.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of thing, like, now you could just put it, like, that could be on Spotify tomorrow if you had the
and
the recordings.
And some, like, the tracks that I know of, that still exist, they were good. I mean, they weren't.
What did it end up sounding like?
Oh, it's like Sexyland makes it sound like it would be like some,
like,
Marshall
Lizard.
Stacks and the whole bit. But no, it was like Grateful Dead or something. Like, it was very rootsy band oriented.
Funny.
Yeah.
Did you guys do the extended jams?
Live? Oh, absolutely, we did. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would
you do like 3 sets kind of thing, like play all night?
Yep. Yeah. Like, those were the days of you played that night 10 to 2, and that was that. Yeah.
Right. So the extended jams in the set really helped fill that.
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah. Yep. And, and like you, I don't know if you've ever been in a cover band, but like, you start to run short on time or and you need to fill in time. So you're like, we've had a request to do this one again, but you didn't.
I played it. The only cover band I've ever played in was when I was in university. These guys who lived across the hall from me were like, I don't know what they had a cover band. Like, so when I was in first year, they lived downstairs from me, and then there's like one band in our dorm or whatever, and they had my friend Jason playing the drums, and it was these 2 guys from Gander, Newfoundland, and then this other guy, Joe Grass, who was from Moncton, who has now gone on. He's like a session guy in Montreal. He plays with like Plants and Animals, Bar Brothers. Does like solo stuff. Yeah.
He's got a great name too.
Yeah, Patrick Watson too, I think also. Yeah, but also he's from Moncton, so somebody I knew from there had a story about him meeting a friend's mom and her going like, Joe Grass, why do they call you that?
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, but fair. Also like purportedly would like sit down on the sidewalk with his guitar and crowds would just gather around. He was just one of these
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, I was in first year as a music student, like didn't really know what I was doing there. And he's like, "You're a drummer, are you?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Would I be able to play your drums?" I was like, "Sure, man, I guess. I don't really know you."
Yeah.
And then I was like, how long is this going to take, And then he went and I don't know, played for about 5 minutes, but I was like, whoa, this guy's way better than me.
Oh. Yeah, do you know John Epworth?
Oh, yeah.
I had that experience with that guy. Like, he was, Jay Votor, our mutual friend. I used to play in a band with Jay. And when he started playing with John Epworth, they had been in St. John for whatever reason, and they came over to a rehearsal spot that we had on the west side. And so, we were jamming, and it was like, cool, I was the drummer, and he's like, "Can I play your drums, man?" And I was like, "Oh, go ahead." And, you got that Like, oh, go ahead. I'm the drummer. Like
whatever, I guess, man.
Don't try not to break anything. Yeah. And then he like slayed, and I was like, this guy is so much better than me. And then I come to find out that he was, he is a drummer too.
Yes. That's like his background thing. I know though, like my old band played a show. Maybe we did a couple shows. We played Gobblefest. Yeah, but it was kind of after Gobblefest had really peaked. I don't know what it's like now, but I remember my old punk band playing there in like 2004, 2005.
What punk band were you in?
We were called Grade 7 Push Fight.
Okay, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good, actually.
We stole that name from our bass player's old band, his high school band, because they like had broken up, and we needed a name for this band, and couldn't think of a better name than that.
That's so good, man.
Yeah, that was exactly it. But so we had some friends from Sydney and went up and played Gobblefest once or twice, and it was great. Like played at the Steelworkers Hall, packed house. Like the first show, first year we went, it was those two. So our friends' two bands. I was a Spy and One Day Late, which shared a member or two, and then also we played with Ermine and Epworth. Like our first time playing there. I'd never seen John Epworth before and couldn't really make sense of what he was doing because, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit inside too. And I didn't really know the Dean Malenkos at that time. So he was singing and I was like, man, this guy's a great singer. But so anyway, we went up in Halifax and he produced an EP for us. We had kind of like...
John did?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we were kind of bugging him to let us open for him or whatever.
Yeah.
And as you do as a new band in town, just like approach everybody.
Absolutely.
Hit them up on MySpace.
Yeah.
But he was getting into producing stuff at that time, so he wanted to produce something, and we were excited to have him do it. But he had put out this album. There was really kind of eclectic stuff that he had done on his own. He played every instrument. And we'd back him up, and every member of the band struggled to reproduce the parts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. He's crazy good, man. How did we get on? Oh, we were talking about him playing drums. Yeah. Yeah, no. So, I mean, some people are like that, It's nuts. Screw them.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so but cover bands, I did play in a cover band, kind of in a dorm room, and then we did a couple of shows, but we mostly would like get together on the weekends, and their buddy would drive up from Halifax, and we would play like Tragically Hip tunes or whatever.
I miss I went through my like phase for like 20 years, I guess, but like when I got into the original music scene, I started to like adopt the mentality. I don't know if it was like this in Nova Scotia or not, but like the mentality of like almost looking down on cover bands, you know? And
I did forever.
Oh yeah. And like, I filled in for a buddy of mine that I grew up with. He has a cover band, and I filled in for a show. Might have been like summer before last, maybe. And it was one of the most fun times I've had in ages, man. Like playing "Running Down a Dream" by Tom Petty, and like, all right, I'm going to be like Steve Ferrone in this, Like,
yeah, totally.
And like, it was so fun, And I would totally do it again, and I regret ever, anything I might have said in a forum or something, because I'm sure I've said something stupid, But
the thing that I always found, and I think I don't know how I would feel because I don't do. The last time I went to see a cover band, I went to O'Leary's to see The Frequency, I think they're called.
Don't know them.
A friend of mine from Halifax, who's a guy I met on a gig. Gigging.
Yeah.
Bass player. Anyway, it's him and his brother's band. They were good. But I used to always get frustrated because I found they would all play the same songs, and it was songs that I didn't like.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that same was around here too. Like, and maybe it's still like that, but when I was in a cover band, it was like that. Like,
totally, but it's different when you're the one doing it, because I found even like with the Tragically Hip tunes, it was exciting because like I've never tried to play this song before, but I've heard it so many times that I could just kind of play it, and it's fun to play it with musicians who can pull off the parts.
Well, that's what I found about sitting in with my buddy's band was like, and sometimes like I just want to punch myself in the face, but like arrogantly I was like, oh yeah, but I'm not going to rehearse more than once. You know, like who says that? Like what an asshole. But anyway, but it was, all those songs were so, I've never played them, but they were so, I know them, you know what I mean? Like that it was just so much fun. And I think that's what made it so fun. It was like, do I stop here? I think I do. Oh, good. I did. I was supposed to. Like,
yeah, totally. Always starts and stops, right?
Right. Yeah. And like super fun, But anyway, yeah, I would totally get in a cover band again, man. Like it was so much fun.
I would do it too. But I definitely have done that. I've done a little bit of playing cover stuff on my own, just like acoustic guitar and singing. And it's really only been in the last year or so, probably, that I've done it. Kind of on the sly, like.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about it is, especially after having been in an original band for so long, or original bands for so long, like you never get paid. You have to work to rehearse, bring people out. If you're making your own records, that costs money. Everything costs money. Nothing makes you money. Everything is a task that you have to do.
Yep.
But playing a cover gig, you show up. You don't have to advertise it because the bar's doing it anyway, and people don't really care who you are. And you get through it. And also, I think it's good as a writer or a performer to play songs that are well written. And, if they're hits for a reason, so you get to feel like how to kind of build up the energy and just what a well-written song feels like to play.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to express this well enough, but maybe I'll know what I mean. Like one of the things I found too was like, hanging around with those guys when I filled in for my buddy's band and playing those tunes was like, they were just like, oh yeah, this song rips. And like, they weren't judging it or like, thinking like, oh, well, the lyrics are dumb or like, they were just like, the song rips. And, I think maybe sometimes, or at least in my experiences, you almost lose that joy. Like you become kind of critical or like, side eyeing, making sure it's cool to say a band is cool or
so
you know what
much.
I mean? Like,
yeah,
and
totally.
I'm 45 years old now, so maybe like might be my age that where I'm starting to go like, oh wait, I don't care about that stuff anymore. But I really felt like I learned a lot from those dudes, like playing that show. I hope you know what I mean by that. But like,
totally,
yeah.
Well, because I also think it is like to the detriment of live bands. Cover bands and original bands are two different worlds now where they used to not be.
Right.
Like in the days of the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin or whatever, they played bars and then they started writing their own tunes and then they became the biggest bands in the world.
Yep.
And now it's like you can be a cover band, you can play those shows, but you will never be taken seriously as an original band.
Yep.
Or if you are an original band, like you play different venues to a different audience.
Yep.
And sometimes it works.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Some people are able to build an audience.
For sure.
That's bigger than their friends or, maybe, 100, 200 people locally.
Yep. I play in this group called Bonnet House. Have you ever?
No.
It's a folk trio, and I've been in it for a few years now. But it's with these two guys that are like, just like, professors of folk music,
Yeah.
like they really know their stuff. And because of their background, like I'm learning a ton. And in that tradition, it's, our songs mixed with, quote unquote covers, but that's not, it's like, it wouldn't even be a thought. Like you wouldn't call it a cover. It's just like, well, yeah, of course you're going to play these other songs. How arrogant would it be to think you're just going to play your own?
Right.
And the mentality of that band is really like this humbling experience that is teaching me so much,
Yeah. I bet. Well, in the folk world too, like things are more, it's more like their standards that just everybody.
Yeah. Like, of course you're going to play that. Of course you are.
Yeah. Because the other thing, like I read Bob Dylan's autobiography, which, I mean, who knows, how accurate it is.
Right.
But I know he did some kind of public appearance in the last few years where he talks about this too. But he's like, I would go and learn 5 songs and then try to play them that night. And
Sure.
you do that enough, and then that's how you get to the point where you're writing these songs because you just are so versed in this style and how these things work. That's how you write "Blowing in the Wind."
Yeah.
When it doesn't come from nowhere.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, I remember when I was making my first, well, I guess it was my second, like Clinton Charlton record. There was a song that sounded a lot like a Josh Ritter song. You know that guy?
I know the name.
I rip him off all the time. But anyway, and the arrangement even was very much like one of his songs. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can do this, And a friend of mine who was playing bass on the record was like, well, he took it from somewhere. And I was like, oh my God, like that statement really nailed me. Like, I was like, oh my God, like there is a lineage to all this stuff. And, it's kind of what you're alluding to, I think. And
well, it's so like can be kind of liberating to find that. Like I remember going to like Jerry Grinnelli does workshops in Halifax sometimes, and him talking about lineage. Like, I'm glad you used that word. This is what made me think of it. But he talks about that. He's like, we know where this music comes from. We know who our teachers are, and we're part of a tradition.
Sure.
And it also is like, I think it's both empowering, but also takes some of the pressure off, where it's like, it's not like I have to be this original creative genius who just comes up with everything and nobody knows how I did it.
Right.
It's more like we are, in the tradition of these creative people. We're building on what they've done,
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. But that's true too, because the other thing that you discover, if you are trying to be as creative as possible, which I definitely played in a band where that was what we thought we were supposed to be doing, and like there's only so much stuff that works, and within the pantheon of things that technically work, there's an even smaller amount of that people actually want to hear.
Yep, that's so true. Yep.
Yeah, you can stick chords and notes and time signatures together. It doesn't mean anybody wants to listen to it.
Yep.
And it's funny, like all of the magic is in kind of like riding that line. You know what I mean? It's like finding, it can't be exactly something that somebody's heard before or they'll recognize it, but it can't be too weird either. Like nobody wants to listen to completely original music.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like Paul Simon had said, and this line resonates more and more every year. He said, eventually everything's a love song. And I was like, yeah. And, even though like, maybe 15 years ago, my songs were like boy meets girl kind of songs, now I'm writing about like my life experiences now, but they're all still love songs. Like, it's all still trying to figure shit out and get to a place of happiness, and I think that's what he meant by that. And that's what people respond to. Like, you're right, Tom Sawyer is cool, but it's not for everyone, right?
Well, and even if you look at the how many Rush songs are there and how many Rush songs does everybody know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yep. I'm with you.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah. I don't know if it's funny. So how many Clinton Charlton albums are there now at this point? And sorry, you were just about to talk and I interrupted you.
No, it's good.
I was going to say, when did you make the switch? Because I know you said like you had picked up the guitar and then kind of, did you get frustrated with it and just kind of quit playing it, or did you stick with it?
No, I always, I stuck with it. Well, okay, so to answer your first question, how many Clinton Charlton albums are there? It would depend on what you define as an album.
Okay.
Two physical, like you can go into a store and buy, but 4 if you count my digital projects, and I do. Some of the organizations that I've submitted to be part of, and I won't name names, but they don't consider them albums. No.
But that's so weird, man. I find that really, sorry, this is a tangent, but
it bothers me.
I find in this day and age, it is so frustrating that those powers that be in the industry require you to do this thing that in some ways, like, what are you making CDs for? So that they will recognize it. Not because you need to make them or people want to buy CDs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I was reading this thing recently. Maybe you saw it too, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but you'll know if this content makes sense. But they were talking about like the value of music now versus the value of music maybe 10 years ago even. And, they were like, well, it kind of, music itself, like a song as an entity, doesn't really carry a monetary value now. Mm-hmm. It's the things that go along with it that carry monetary value. And like it or not, that's how you have to play in the modern age, you know? And I'm like one of those like, no, I don't like it kind of guys, but that's just because I'm scared to change or, how to swim in waters I've never been in, that kind of thing. But it made a lot of sense.
Sure. So what are the things that go along with it?
Oh, like, tours, live shows, T-shirt sales, that kind of thing. That's what they were saying. Like, that's where the money is.
The song gets you attention, and then you can sell stuff to people.
Yeah, and they were talking about, like, how... I didn't realize this, but I guess YouTube is, like, a big source of music consumption.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize it was, like... That was like what a lot of people do. Like they'll put on YouTube at house parties, that kind of thing.
Oh, dude, I used to work at a coffee shop that would just play YouTube all day.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That surprises me actually. But anyway, they were talking about that and how like the advertisements, like the commercials at the beginning, were like a big source of income for the modern musician, and that surprised me.
Yeah. I know it feels dirty, right? That it's like it's ads that you're getting paid by. You would rather get paid by, like, you make this thing and somebody likes it, so they buy it.
Yeah. But yeah, so you were asking, like, when did I make the switch? And
or do you consider it a switch?
No, I don't.
This is why I thought you'd be interesting to talk to, too, because you are a drummer who is also I don't want to say non-drummer, but,
no,
you know what I mean? You do the other side of it, too.
Yeah, and... like I've always looked at like my dad was a carpenter, and my dad was very big on his tools. Like he would like have an appreciation for his plane. Like this was like, look at this beautiful plane.
Yeah.
And I was that way about instruments. So when I had a guitar, it was like, well, I want to be a songwriter, so this is a tool to do that. But I always looked at drums as a tool to do that too.
Yeah.
And I had a keyboard, like my dad had a keyboard that I could use, this cheap Casio keyboard. I was like, that's a tool, and it's got a drum beat in it, and that's a tool. Like drum machines, I'm fascinated by drum machines. I love them, and I'm a drummer, so I'm supposed to hate them, I guess.
Yeah. But, I love them too.
Yeah.
It's just so fun because if you are not intimidated by it, you're like, well, I actually know how this works, so you can tweak it and program it. Yeah.
And I went through like I would never. I guess, I am a drummer technically, but I wouldn't like define myself as a drummer because that carries with it a certain connotation that I've reached a certain level or that you should be at a certain level, Yeah,
I feel the same way, to be honest. And I also, it also carries this connotation that like, you're a certain type of player and you only care about the drums or whatever.
Yeah. And I went through that phase, especially when I was in that band that I was talking about where like, be like, man, that guy's super good. And like, but I would say he sucked. You know what I mean? Right. Like that kind of thing. But then like, it was so difficult. And, no one instrument has ever carried enough interest for me to go like, I'm going to get super, super good at this. Now, with that said, I still practice all the time, like I'll practice drums all the time. I'll practice guitar all the time. Like, but I am a master of none, but I'm okay with that.
Yep.
If I just played the drums, I'd be like, I need to be way further along than I am right now, but it's okay because it's not all I do,
Yeah.
I've been lucky that people let me play drums in their band, but I've got a theory about that too, is that like I think a lot of getting the gig, quote unquote, is more about like who people want to hang out with than how well you play.
100%.
I really think that's a big thing.
Well, especially because for most of those gigs, like they don't need you to play super flashy or it's very rare that you are required to do that.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, especially with drummers, it's like more often you want somebody who knows how to exercise restraint, who's not trying to turn everything into a solo.
Sure, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like those guys are definitely around and they need to be kind of toned down.
Yeah.
But also, as well as I do, that playing a show is 45 minutes, especially if you're an original band. It's like 45 minutes of playing and an entire night of hanging around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and especially if you're touring or something, you got to be around each other all the time. So yeah, definitely. And I also think it's like it doesn't matter at a certain point if somebody's irritating. It doesn't matter how good they are, and if you love hanging out with somebody and they can do the job, it doesn't matter how extra proficient they are.
Sure. I laugh as you said that because I thought about a Penny Black's tour where I did an Aaron Neville impersonation the whole tour. Really drove the guys nuts. But yeah, for the most part, I think they enjoyed being around me.
That's funny. It popped in my head now is like somebody telling Epworth tour stories. So you mentioned him going on tour with, I think they did a tour with Ruby Jean and the Thoughtful Bees and the John Epworth band. And so it's like, yeah, he made hummus in the van.
That sounds so right.
Yeah.
That sounds so right.
Cutting up chickpeas with a pocket knife.
Yeah.
Garlic, like raw garlic. But yeah, I think so too. And it's I think that's a more liberating way to approach it. And I think ultimately more right too. Like I think focusing on any one instrument can turn it into like too much of a thing. Or maybe I'm just not one of those guys. I don't know. Because there definitely are people who are like totally content just doing their one thing.
I go through phases though. Like I'll go through phases where it's like, nope, like I got to woodshed. Like I got to get better. Or like, you know, somebody will do something where like I'll go, I got to be able to at least do that. And maybe that's where like, you know, my drumming or my guitar playing or something will get better in little increments. You know, where I go like, I got to know how to do that. You know, that one thing.
But what is it that will prompt that?
I don't know. Like with guitar playing, it's I listen to a lot of music, you know, and being I'm a fan of acoustic stuff, so it's not hard to find inspiration for a guitar, like
right,
you know. And I play specifically acoustic guitar. Like I'm a very bad electric guitar player, you know. And there really is a difference between those two instruments, and I play acoustic guitar. But with drums, it's more like usually it's something live. Like Mike Ballier, there were a lot of things in the past couple of years where I was like, "You bastard!" Like I gotta
He's
go
so
learn
good.
that. Oh, it's just and it's like not even like a defining thing where you go like that lick was amazing, or like it's more just like how is he playing that groove so smooth? You know, like
totally. Yeah, you can do all of that, huh?
Yeah, or like do you know the drummer James Gadsden?
Yeah.
He played on like a billion, like that guy when I discovered, you know, him or like, you know, oh my God, this is who's been on all these records. Like that guy made me like, I was practicing a lot, you know, like.
I only really became aware of him since the D'Angelo record, Black Messiah, came out because I know he played on that. And I know he played on the new Bahamas album, which I haven't listened to. And I know he's played on a bunch of other stuff that I've heard probably, but I don't know what.
He's been around forever. Like all the Bill Withers hits, that was him, you know.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So like, you know, he's been he's always been driving that 16th note groove. Like that's always been his whole jam, you know.
Cool.
The Bad Plus, do you know that band? Or
yeah.
When I discovered them, I was like, oh my God, I'm playing drums. You know,
yeah.
Dave King really does it for me. Like I love that guy.
That guy's a crazy drummer. I haven't really checked that band out very much, but it also kind of came along at a funny time for me. It's funny where you say like, you know, if I was focused on the drums or whatever instrument, like I would feel like I needed to be better all the time.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that I found as somebody who wound up going to music school, but not because, like, not for a good reason, really. Yep. But like, I can get in as a drummer, so I guess that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly partial to this one instrument. Then you get there and everybody's better than you. So then you got to like, and then that becomes your thing.
That's a healthy position to be in, though. Like,
yeah, to an extent it is.
Okay. Did you find it discouraging? Did you?
Oh my God, yeah.
I can see that too.
Well, part of it is like just that music. You know, I was always somebody like I had music class in school, and I also realized like I recently found out I have ADHD.
Okay.
So but I don't have like I'm not hyperactive, and I was always smart enough so I could get by in school, and I wasn't running around causing problems.
Sure.
In that way, so I just kind of skated. I only found out at 36.
Yeah.
But so it was more like I have this one class in school where I don't have to sit at a desk and go play an instrument, you know?
Right. Yeah,
and all my friends are going off to school, so I guess that's what I'm doing too.
Yep.
And like this is the only thing I care about. So, so you kind of get in as that, but I've just found I never cared about jazz enough to really go that deep into it.
Yeah, and me neither. I mean, I'm not selling myself as a jazz dude, but like I would find the past maybe 7-8 winters, maybe even less, maybe like 5 or 6 winters, but like for some reason I would take an interest.
Yeah.
And that was how I stumbled on the Bad Plus, and like I really went, these guys are for me because I don't need to have I don't have to have a history with jazz to get it. I can just get it.
And what is it about them?
Real pop. They have a pop sensibility. Like you can tell those guys grew up with like they probably had Kind of Blue, but they also definitely had like Thriller. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
totally.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing I would say I found at school. Like all the other students, I could be like kind of on the same page as, but the goal just was, I'm not trying to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
But that's cool, man. I know that they are like, and my whole point of this is I got burnt out on new jazz at a certain point.
Oh, okay.
And so I just don't go looking for it. I'll listen to, not much of it. For me, it's all but like 60s, like old Blue Note stuff. That's like all I can listen to.
Yeah. I found as I explored, there was some stuff where I was like, I'm going to buy this because I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Bitches Brew I bought because I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And I gave it to Jeff McClellan. Like I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like
Right. But it's totally for Jeff.
Oh, yeah. But I bought it because I'm supposed to like this. You know what I mean? But I ended up like finding my niche. And a lot of it was like more hip hop kind of stuff. Because jazz and hip hop, like it's pretty close. There's a lot of influence on one and the other in modern jazz anyway.
Totally.
And so it was like the hip hop stuff that I would really like lean towards. I love groove stuff, I think.
That's cool. I agree.
Yeah.
I would say like Dave King, maybe I don't know if I follow that guy online. Billy Martin though, I follow that guy on Instagram.
He's awesome.
Oh, every time it shows up, I'm just so glad to see it.
He's
like everything he does.
What I like about him is that like there's mistakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but it all sounds so great. Like
I know, it feels so
if
good.
I set that up to a metronome, this isn't right on, but it is right on. Like do you know what I mean by that? Like right on, more like, yeah, brother, it's so good.
Totally.
I love that guy.
Yeah, I do too.
And he knows what he's doing. Like he's schooled.
Oh yeah, he is. Well, I looked him up. He's like, his mom was a rockette.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in New York City, and his dad was, I can't remember what his dad was. His mom was
Trippy.
a rockette. Yeah. All right, so anyhow, so there's 2 physical Clinton Charlton albums.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then there'd be like, 5.
Uh-huh.
Other records.
And have you always performed as a solo artist?
No, not until. Did you say you're 36?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would have been like your age.
Okay.
I
yeah.
haven't been performing solo that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what got you to do it?
Well, I always wanted to.
Yeah.
And I would sing like karaoke. I was like a karaoke star.
Yeah.
And it was even like I had my Ringo moments in that Mohair Sam band. Like, there was like the Ringo moment to start a second set where I would sing like Bad Leroy Brown or that kind of thing.
Right.
But like my own material and performing on my own, I shouldn't say I never had the opportunity, but I never had the guts. So I was in a band called the Butterfly Effect with my friend Chris Fudge and Javo.
Yeah.
Javo has a tattoo actually.
Yeah, totally.
Of our album cover. Anyway, so when that band went south, our conversation has a lot of cool merges. So when Jay left to go play with John Epworth and this band kind of was falling apart, I decided, I should take this opportunity and start my own band. So I did. And that was when I started performing. But that band was short-lived, like maybe 3 years. We were called the Carousels.
Okay.
And so then I started performing, solo. And and so I ended up like, the insecurity of not having a band behind you. I ended up like forming a band with all my pals called the Formers that backed me up a lot.
Yeah.
But then eventually it was like, no, I feel confident enough to play solo. My guitar playing has gotten good enough to play solo. It's really depressing, but people don't seem to mind, And so, I did that more. And also like I would not play shows and not pay my friends. Like, if it wasn't something where I couldn't at least give them something to go like, I respect you, whether it was $10, but like something. So, it became more and more where it was like, well, it makes sense to do this solo. So that's a long way of answering your question, but that's how I started playing solo.
But that's complete. And well, it's a funny, because I've gone through a similar thing where it's especially as you get older, you're like, no, people are busy. If they're going to put their time, when you're younger, you've never done any of it before, you'll just jump at every opportunity. But part of it is like there's a certain comfort in playing the drums, sitting at the back of the stage. Yeah. You're not really exposed. Nobody's really watching you in the same way.
Yeah. And I like the pressure of or the no pressure of playing drums.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, totally. And it's even there is even a physical buffer between you and the audience.
Yep.
Because there's like that line of people standing in front of you.
Like you've been at 2 shows recently that I've played. You were at that show where I opened up for Road.
Yeah.
I was so uncomfortable. Like I felt like an old man at this show with like 20 somethings, and I was nervous as shit. Like that's why my mouth was running off and telling too many stories. And then the other one, because I'm playing drums, where you were at the Penny Black show, as comfortable as could be,
Uh-huh.
So, it's funny. Like, there is that security of the little barrier in front of you, and
totally
nobody's looking at me anyway,
Yeah, and like I'm here to do a job. And
yeah, it's great.
There's no pressure on you to keep things rolling when you're not. All you have to do is play. You don't have to talk.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
But also, it's funny that you say like it's depressing, but people don't seem to mind, because that's another thing that I was thinking at that show, because that's another kind of problem that I've had, and part of it is if because there isn't that pressure on you, you write music as an outlet. Then when it comes time to play that music, you're like, well, my only songs are ones that really mean something. There's I don't have any party songs.
Yeah, I have no party songs. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But people also, like, that's a space where that's accepted and people get it.
Yeah.
Because it is a thing that I was thinking, because both you and Aaron, like, it's like, it is pretty kind of, I don't know, intimate or personal or emotional or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact of you being on stage behind the microphone, it's somehow like, that might be kind of weird if you were, or it'd be the thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, man, let's go outside and talk.
Yeah.
But if you're on stage, it's somehow expected, or it's like it provides this kind of.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like if, we've never really hung out. So if you and I had been hanging out and I was like, yeah, man, so my dad died. Like, you'd be like, oh my God, Clinton needs help. Like, this guy is depressed.
Yeah.
But on stage, it's like, all right, well, here's my songs. And I see what you're saying. Like, it's a more
you can just go
spot.
there.
Yeah.
And
you're right.
Yeah. You can be vulnerable or talk about that stuff in that way. And I think people just culturally are so used to it that it's, they don't really bat an eye.
For what I'm doing, with my music or whatever, because it's, acoustic singer-songwriter or based in folk, like that performance, the tried and true performance of talking about the song before the song really works, because it helps sell the emotion of it, and I'm not a fraud, like, but it does help, and if I'm going to stand up on stage and play the kind of stuff like you heard the other night, then it needs to have some context.
Sure.
It needs to. And yeah, and sometimes it's a bummer, I guess, but
I don't think it really is, though. I mean, especially maybe if it's like some kind of upbeat pop night and then you have to do your thing and people aren't expecting it.
You know what though? Like when I first started doing the solo acoustic singer-songwriter thing, we had this club called Elwood's. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of Elwood's,
okay, yeah. And I would play so many shows where it was like me and the songs I'm playing right now are from a certain period, but still these depressing acoustic songs.
Sure.
More country probably influenced back then, but it'd be like that and then like a punk band and a metal band.
Really?
And that was like a pretty frequent thing. Yeah. It was such a great time,
And so what is I think, financially there's a rationale where it makes sense to have an opener that's an acoustic act rather than a band because sound check is easier, you don't have to pay as much, or there's no kind of expectation. Like
I just think back in those days it was, like I'd be sitting at a table with someone from a punk band and someone from a metal band and me, and we'd all just be pals and never gave it a second thought.
Yeah.
So that's how those shows happened,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember my parents being like really worried because I was a very straight-laced kid, was constantly like playing sports, and I wasn't good at them, but I constantly was, and very good in school. And when I started hanging around with these two musician guys in Grand Bay growing up, that got me into playing music. That one guy wore like a long trench coat, was very long. The other guy was like the metal dude with like the jean jacket and the really long hair.
Yeah.
And my parents just looked horrified. And these were like some of the most moral and good people, Like, there was really those preconceived notions.
Well, it's funny because, the idea of like a metalhead is going to be like smashing windows or something. And more often than not, they're nerds.
Absolutely.
Like that's who's into metal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And like, it was like, you don't want me to be hanging around with those other guys. Because you know what those guys are doing now? They're all like womanizing and they're drinking and doing drugs. And
they're actually on drugs.
Yeah, and we're eating Doritos and playing, the latest hit on Much Music or something, like nothing's going on with these guys.
It's funny. I'm not sure why this popped into my brain, but I used to have a real tough time with pop music, like just pop. It was just too commercial, and I thought it was soulless, and it really bummed me out that people enjoyed it. If I was at like a dance club or some kind of situation where commercial pop music was playing and people were enjoying it, I just would feel depressed or something. And I went to a wedding where the groom was like a metal guy. He was a singer in a metal band, and all of his buddies were like metalheads. And at the dance, the reception, they were playing like all of the pop hits.
And they were dancing to it?
They loved it.
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, oh, this can just be fun.
Yeah. I've never lost touch with that. Like I've always, I might not be vocal about it with some stuff, but like I've always kind of stayed in touch with some of the radio stuff. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, like, I weep for the state of modern music, but like there's still those jams where you're like, Umbrella by Rihanna, that was awesome. I loved that one. And
Can't Feel My Face was amazing.
I love that. And I've been getting into this. Do you know Solange?
A little bit, yeah.
Her I guess she has a new album now that came out this month, but like the last one is Seat at the Table, I think it's called. I've been getting into that lately, and it's great.
I've listened to the new one a little bit because I had heard so much about the old one, but I haven't really checked her. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
I haven't checked out the new one.
I really liked it, the little bit that I heard, yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, like, and that's cool. But you know what? I think like maybe when you're younger, your identity is made up of the music you listen to. You know what I mean? Or at least you're trying to find your identity with.
This is what I was going to say. We were talking about cover bands earlier. It's funny how you grow up with this sort of idea of like, cover bands, like that's bullshit. I would never do that. But your first bands also are likely cover bands.
Absolutely. Yes.
We were playing Rage Against the Machine and Pennywise and whatever.
And you're posing. You're trying to play those roles.
Yes.
You're like, yep.
But I found like a bit of a turning point for me was I had written some songs and it was when I was living up here and my band was in Halifax. And forever, especially having gone through kind of the music school thing, and your identity is so tied up in it, and you're like, well, I know people who are really good at singing and playing guitar or whatever, and so I could never do that. And what's funny is that, all the time you go to shows where there are people who don't have those hang-ups and they're just doing it.
For sure.
But I always thought, I could never. But when I was up here and I just kind of didn't know people as well and didn't have as much to do, I started to get out and play. And I remember playing at O'Leary's one night at the open mic and just playing like the saddest song I had and just being like a minute and a half into it and like, this sucks. It's just like a fart in church, like no one is enjoying themselves. I feel like I should probably just stop playing it, but
you're in it.
Yeah, that would be more awkward. Yep. So I started it. I'm going to commit to it. And I powered through, but it really, and then the next guy got up and I don't know, he played like Jimmy Buffett tunes or something.
People loved it.
Yeah, totally. And you're like, wow, you can play music and it can just be fun.
For sure. Yeah. And and it's all about environment, right? Like
totally.
There's some gigs where it's like, I'll be asked, to play or whatever. And I'll be like, I have to say no because I just know that, the stuff I'm going to do is going to work in certain environments and not in others.
Yeah.
And maybe that's on me as a performer, but I only know how to do what I know how to do,
I think that's true of any performer too. Like there's, no matter what you do, there's going to be a place where that's not really what people want to hear.
I've been thinking lately, like, I want to get those songs that you heard the other night done and recorded and then like write something happier, like, and not from an audience perspective, but just for me, like I think I'm done wallowing in those songs, they were necessary, but I feel like, well, you're a songwriter. Do you feel like until something's recorded, like those songs don't have a home, and so you got to keep playing them until,
that's what I feel like that's why I feel like I got to get out and play some because I've got, I don't know, a backlog. It's not even that many songs, but it's probably 10, 10 or maybe 15 if you include pieces. But I feel as though I can't write new ones because then I'll forget these old ones and I got to get out and play them or I got to record them or do something with them so that then those will be done and then you can move on. But I also feel like, have you ever, maybe this was unhealthy and I should have just, because I think it's also probably a little bit self-centered and you think you're more important than you are. Like I definitely remember going through periods also where it's like, I've stopped writing stuff because I'm like sad about this thing and I don't want to write 5 songs about it.
Oh, sure. But I mean, at the same time, it's like some things deserve the attention of wallowing in it, and it's like, when my old man died, which was the source of a lot of material for the stuff I've been playing, well, it was a big fucking deal. Like
totally
that, and it's not even because my dad died. It was like, well, my dad died, so what does this mean for me as a man in the world? What does it mean for my music? And like, I should have totally gone to a psychiatrist, but the way I was brought up, that would be saying something's wrong with me, But like from those experiences, realizing like, oh, the reason I sing, maybe not the reason I play drums, but the reason I sing was because my dad thought that he would brag to his friends that I could sing.
Right.
So like, oh shit, that's why I do this. Like,
wow.
Now I got to find new reasons to do this. Like, because there was like this big phase where, sorry man, like now I'm kind of going off.
No, not at all.
There was like this big phase where after my old man died, I would like, try to practice my songs or like think about a gig and just being like, oh fuck no, like I can't. And like physically, like my voice wouldn't make the noise. Like I had to go to a voice doctor and the whole bit. Like
wow.
It was all psychosomatic, and it all ended up coming down to like, oh, I've been depressed for 2 years. I didn't realize it, but I knew on the other side. And like finally realizing like, oh yeah, my dad's why I sing. So now I got to find new reasons to sing.
Yeah,
like great. So there was like, and those things deserve attention.
Absolutely.
So I've always used, my tunes for that. And so, like, regardless of how something so small can be, and like going to your point here, if it meant something to you, then wallow in it, man. Like,
Yeah.
because ultimately, what's it going to be for? It's for you,
Well, exactly. This is the other thing, kind of in retrospect now, thinking about it, like whatever therapy that can provide you with is way more valuable than whatever, like, people don't think it's cool that you know?
Yeah, Brent Mason told me something. I don't even know if he remembers saying this to me, but he told me a long, long time ago that there's always someone listening. And I think it was like because of like a bummer night at O'Leary's or something. I was like, oh, nobody liked my shit, that kind of thing or something. But that like really hit home because it's true, There'd be like I was kind of a weird kid because like all my friends would be, I don't know, like liking Rad or Iron Maiden or something.
Right.
And I was like that nerd that was like, real quietly being like, you guys heard of Terrence Trent D'Arby? Like, like I was that, like the weird kid. Like,
yeah.
So,
I can relate, man.
Right. So, like when I started getting to go to bars or whatever, my friends would be like, you guys seen this band? And they're doing like ripping hard songs. And I'd be like, did anybody see that singer-songwriter guy that played those tender songs? He was awesome, But, I was that somebody's listening. So that was like a very important thing. And so like, there's some stuff where I'd play and I'd get an email from somebody I've never met, like, and still haven't to this day, just saying like, hey man, like I've been through that too. Like, that's awesome. Thanks for singing those songs. And that's like, yep, there it is. That's the big shit, That's the big stuff.
Makes it all worth it.
For sure. Yeah. Like whatever that means. But yeah.
I always found that, and I would say my experience in that way is still more as a drummer. I think of like going on tour with my band, and you like playing it for a few months, and you book a week off work, and then you go, and then you're playing in Kingston on a Thursday to the bar staff and 2 other people.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was never a bad show, though. I always enjoyed it. Even playing to nobody, you're like, well, that drunk guy who knows why he's here by himself, but he is loving it.
Yes.
And it makes it worth it.
Yes. And you know what? Like, did you grow up with like the 3-channel thing? Are you of that age, or did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I am. My friends, like, because of where I grew up, apparently it's because we were just too far off the highway. We couldn't even get country cable. So I'm from PEI, like out in the country. And
you grew up in PEI, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
I keep thinking of you as a Nova Scotia guy, but yeah.
I lived there for like 10 years.
Right.
But Richmond PEI. So my friends in Summerside all had cable TV, which meant like 35 channels probably at the time.
Yeah.
And my friends in Wellington had country cable, which meant like 14, 15 channels. And I had CBC, French CBC, and like CTV.
That's okay. Exactly what I had. And like, this is a roundabout way of talking about what you just said. But so for me, and probably for you, video hits.
Oh yeah,
Samantha, like that was like the shit, And
I don't think I was allowed to watch it. Like
really?
I remember. Oh yeah.
Oh man, that was my Bible, And
Stu Jeffries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good on you for remembering that. So like seeing things like. Especially the Canadian. Well, maybe they only played Canadian, but I don't know because they played Debbie Gibson and stuff.
Oh, I remember seeing the video for Paula Abdul, Opposites Attract, on that show. Yeah,
but the Canadian stuff always struck me because it was like, well, shit, this is happening in Canada, And like, I remember Teenland by Northern Pikes and just being like, well, that's what Toronto sounds like.
Right.
They were in Saskatoon. I didn't know that, But like, it was like, well, I guess that's what Toronto sounds like, or for like 5440 and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, there were no kids in my neighborhood. I think that was the same kind of experience for you.
Yeah.
So like, you have your mind, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like to this day, going out with, the band, like usually it's Penny Blacks, like going out on tour and playing shows is always a blast because I'll turn into that 8-year-old kid that's going like 5440, probably drove across Canada in a van and played to nobody,
Yeah.
Or like the Dakota, when we went to the Dakota, I had a hard time like staying quote unquote cool. Like Adam Kirshner will laugh when he hears me say that, actually. But, you know, like, I had a hard time not freaking out because it was like, holy shit, that's the Dakota. And I would see that on Much Music. You know, this band played at the Dakota, you know, and like, that was a big fucking deal.
It's a big venue. Well, it's not a big venue, but it's a big deal.
No, but it was a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I don't think I was that aware at that time of what was going on in Canada and what was the world. I think where I kind of clued in would have been like high school, and you see gob videos on Much Music or something, and they look cheap, but that's fun because they're on TV still.
Yes.
And it makes you think, like, you can do that. You can get, a camcorder, whatever it was at the time, and make your own video. And that was a thing, apparently. I did some, one time at work last year at the coffee shop, I decided to look up this punk band Downway that a buddy of mine had the CD of.
I know them.
Oh, you wouldn't, and it's not really worth it at this point.
Okay.
They have a song called Jack That Tastes Like Rye. That's their big hit, and that video's on YouTube. But they were from Edmonton, I want to say, and they made a video and they sent it to Much Music, and Much Music started playing it.
Oh, that's how the Pursuit of Happiness got big.
Really?
Yeah, they just made their own video. And then, like, Much Music was like, well, yeah, we need content.
Yeah,
so
and Canadian content especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly how the Pursuit of Happiness got big.
Crazy.
Yeah,
because that's what these guys said. You know, all of a sudden, people start coming to our shows and we start getting offers because they've heard of us, so now we seem like we're this big band. Right. Yeah.
It must be that way for, like, remember they would play the shit out of that Shadowy Man on the Shadowy Planet short video. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I only knew them from Kids in the Hall, really.
Oh, okay. Well, they had, like, I don't know, maybe it was like a minute, but it was like perfect because they could, you know, if one program finished early and the next program, they got that 1 minute, so that would get played all the time.
Right.
And it looked really cheap, but I was like, those guys are brilliant. And I like remember being like 13 thinking, I'm going to make an album of like 45-second songs.
Right.
You know? And be a star.
That's so funny, man. That's so fun. How did you how'd you get into recording? Did you like recording yourself?
Oh, again, not that long, but my buddy Chris Fudge. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't know you could. But I was roommates with Mark Goslin actually for like a long, long time. And, you know, so do you know Chris Fudge? Probably not, eh?
I think I met him once, but I played in the band at Mike Bellier's wedding with Chris Fudge. Yeah, so we hung out a bunch.
Okay. Well, yeah, so, you know, he, big home recording guy. And so, you know, I would hang around with him a lot. And so just learning a lot from him and kind of going like, oh, shit, like I can do this on my own. Like, this is cool, you know? And so I bought my first 4-track with him, and, you know, he would give me a lot of tips and that kind of thing. So
cool. Yeah. Yeah, I found like I had my uncle owned a 4-track that I would borrow now and then, and just make weird like I did recorded the intro of Battery by Metallica.
Okay,
like, I can do this now, you know, because like these layered guitars, and I mean it was the time you could look the tabs up on the internet. I don't think I figured it out. I did row, row, row your boat, like.
Oh, with yourself?
Yeah. And just like make whatever weird shit you could make. But it's I don't know, it's funny. I don't do that now.
No?
No, not in the same way.
I love it. I do it more now.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, what I'm doing lately is making I guess you'd call it ambient stuff, but just making music where I don't have to worry about it having a melody or changes, and especially not sing it. So I'm just basically playing around and goofing with sounds in my music room.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like it's, you know, it's like I'd rather do that at night than, you know, sit and watch whatever.
Oh, me too, any day. Yeah.
And so it's really fun. And now I'm excited about spring because I want to get out and do some, like I want to go collect some sounds, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever, you know?
So do you release that stuff?
I haven't yet, but I think I'm going to. Like I'm starting to think like, oh, I think I'm making an ambient record.
Cool.
I think I've been showing a few friends some stuff, you know, and so we'll see. I think I will put something out, yeah.
That's fun, man.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, like the recordings that I've done on my January through December project, you know, just naturally lead that way anyway. Like I got cluttering them up with so many textures and loops and that kind of thing that it just made sense that I was heading that way anyway.
Right. And so for the audience, what is your January through December project?
Well, it's not mine anymore. I gave it to Chris Fudge, actually, but it was a project where I wrote, record, and released a song every month. I did it in 2011, and I loved it. Like, it was the most gratifying thing. And when I did it in 2011, it was to just, stay relevant or to have content out while I wrote another record.
Yeah.
I did it again in 2018, and I did it again in 2018 as a way of getting over the things we previously talked about. Kind of going like, all right, it's time to make my own music again. Well,
and putting a deadline on it ensures that you actually do it.
And ensures that you actually do it, yeah. And it was great. Like, I loved it. I think I don't know how to use the internet as well now. Like, I was good at forums and that kind of thing.
Right.
So the 2011 one had a pretty good audience. This one, I don't know.
Well, because now you'd have to, like, it's a weird thing. Like, you're going to buy Facebook ads. You know what I mean?
I did 1 month. I did, actually. I really did.
Did that work?
No, because I don't know. I don't think so. But I also didn't know what I was doing. I just gave them my money, and it was like, okay, I have a sponsored ad now. I never saw it.
Yeah, boost post, whatever. Because the thing is with a forum, it's a pretty targeted group of people who are like deliberately going to this place to find out about local music. So they're a lot more inclined to check it out.
Yeah, we used to have this thing called Giraffe Cycle, and you've heard of it. Yeah,
I remember it existing. I was more of on the locals kind of.
I was on that too. Yeah,
scene. Yeah,
but I knew how to use that. Nowadays I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, this year I gave it to my buddy Chris Fudge, and so he's making music. So if you want to check out his music, it's JanuaryThroughDecember.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw recently had posted something about it.
Yeah. He's doing good stuff. It's awesome. It makes me really happy for him to be making music, and I'm also weaseling my way onto his songs, which is really what I selfishly wanted, so that's fun.
So you can be a sideman, but the pressure's not on you to...
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite bands that I've ever been in of all time was called Edge on Spiral. And it was
called what?
Edge on Spiral.
Okay.
And it was the band that, kind of Chris's solo project after the Butterfly Effect broke up. And I, have been pining for those days again. So this is my little way of trying to make that happen, I guess. But yeah, so he's letting me play in his songs. Pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. There it is, folks. My conversation with Clinton. Listening to it now, while that was a break in the conversation, I realize it does make for kind of an anticlimactic ending. But you get what you get. How much did you pay for this episode? That's right. And we are sponsor-free. I'm just doing it all myself. I don't have a team. I record, edit, release, produce, promote the things myself. Thanks so much to Clinton for being here. While it's on my mind, let me just put this thought here. So as mentioned earlier, I've been taking a break from the Instagram, which kind of when the new year rolled around, I thought I would get really into like trying to do it all the time. Because everybody says, you need to be posting more. You need to be posting more. If you want anybody to care, you need to be posting more. And maybe that's true. So I just kind of spur of the moment on January 1st decided I would do 31 days of drum tips, hashtag 31 days of drum tips, which is deliberately a non-catchy hashtag so that when you click on it, my thing is the only one that shows up. Please don't start hashtagging 31 days of drum tips at this point. Anyhow, the project kind of grew to be a little bit crazy, as projects will sometimes do. With each thing that I would put out, I would try to make the next one better, and then you learn more about how the app works. You get into the different functions, things like IGTV, which I would have maybe never have gotten around to on my own. But I found the editing process really frustrating. Anyway, I have really toned it down. And what I was thinking about earlier, you know, when I first started using Instagram as an app, what I liked about it, what I found such a refreshing thing about it was kind of the simplicity, but also like there's no ads. I only see stuff that my friends post and I can get to the end of it. Like I can find the point where it repeats when I've seen everything. Is it still like that? Thanks for being here. Stay tuned for part 2 of this somewhere down the road. See you next week. Bye-bye.